Okay, now. So welcome back to the Let's Get Moving podcast. I'm your host, Ivan Markovic, and this is your first time tuning in. We're a place where we drill down into the science of performance, mindset, and what it truly takes to move at your absolute best. Today, we are tackling one of the most critical topics in elite sports, the meticulous science of periodization, and how that strategy feeds into the building of a high-performance culture. So we are not just talking about lifting weights, we are talking about strategically winning championship here as well. So to guide us through this intricate world, I'm thrilled to welcome a true expert who has been in the trenches with elite athletes here, joining us all the way from the heat of high performance environment of Arizona, Jacob CABEZUDO, a veteran in strength and conditioning world, head coach as well. And Jacob has been also training athletes in the East Valley for 5 years now, I think. Jacob also played as a running back and a run track at Campo Verde High School and graduated in 2017. And while attending that Arizona State University, he also pursued a sport business degree. He also ran speed and agility camps throughout the local football league. From there on, he also started training young athletes privately. Jacob also started a YouTube channel and Instagram page to educate young athletes and their parents along the way. So as a youth athlete, Jacob also became a content creator, and he also started his LLC company and went full time with his passion for training football players. So since then, Jacob has definitely trained nearly over 1,000 athletes from the age from 7 to 22. And whether you're just trying to make your youth club team or start your own high school team or prepare yourself for the college board, I think that Jacob is the right person for you. So he can definitely help you, but along the way. So maybe one of the most important things that I would like to mention, Jacob is also a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a certified speed and agility coach, and owning a universal speed rating certification as well. So Jacob, welcome to the show, man. It's very great to have you here on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm
I, I
excited to
just
talk.
I just try to memorize everything. I just hope that I went full with it and it was correctly with what I just said.
Oh, absolutely,
So it's great,
absolutely.
so great. So Jacob, let's start with the beginning here. So basically, your career has seen and earned everything practically. So navigating all of the demands that a schedule of a team and individual sports can offer, which can be seriously tough, I think. So before we dive into maybe the core of all of the plannings and periodization, can you maybe share some a quick story? So what's the maybe single biggest philosophical challenge you faced when you first inherit maybe an athlete on a start a new annual cycle with them? So is it maybe like a timeline or a culture or just the data that you prioritize the most of your approach setting here?
Yeah, I think the biggest philosophical challenge when trying to reach athletes and reach parents too, because I really have to sell
Mm-hmm.
parents on the importance of our program and what we do, is the idea that training is actually important. A lot of the athletes that we work with, they're on club teams, they're on multiple different teams, and they
Yep.
prioritize tournaments and competitions. And a lot of their schedule is really packed with practices and workouts with their team rather than the strength and speed and power development that is necessary for them to
Yeah.
succeed. So just it's challenging to it. I have to really kind of convince parents, coaches, athletes how important speed and strength development is when their schedule is chock full of showcases and tournaments. So when it comes to like a timeline, it's really just trying to fit in some of the gaps in an athlete's schedule seasonally and throughout the year too. There's some athletes who can't train with me year round just because of how demanding their season is, and some of these athletes don't even have an
Yeah.
off season because they play for their club in the off season and then they play for their school during the season. So what the biggest challenge that I face is just finding a way to fill the buckets that aren't filled by their strength coach that they have at their school, the workouts that they do with their team, and still be able to add value and prevent injury and keep an athlete healthy with all the activity that they're doing.
Yes, I believe it can be quite challenging nowadays, especially with the new shape and how should I shape and form that actually all of the national sites want to bring on us with it. So maybe for the benefit to our listeners out there. So how does periodization of any maybe team sport fundamentally differ from a single sport athlete? So what are the unique, maybe unpredictable variables you must consider when you start working with them?
Yeah, and I work with 99% team
Yeah,
sport athletes. So what's, I guess, more different between individual sport like wrestling, track, tennis, golf, when you work with a team sport athlete, it's there's more
yeah,
athletes involved, right? So we I guess the best way to say this is when with a single sport athlete or an individual sport athlete, you can tailor their program more individually, right? They have their quirks, they have asymmetries that you can zero in on. Meanwhile, with a team sport athlete, I'm trying to just fill
yeah,
buckets, right? I have to understand the demands of their position, but also in relation to the other positions on the field. So if I'm coaching a running back in American football, I have to understand the scheme that their offense runs so he can be successful or she can be successful within their specific offense. Meanwhile, the, I guess, objectives of that individual sport athlete stay
yeah,
roughly the same. For a track athlete, it's the same strategy consistently. For a golf athlete, the demands are very similar,
yeah,
player by player. But with team sport athletes, there's so many different positions that you have to appeal to. So, for example, there's positions on the football field in American football that require less running volume, more strength, and then there's other positions that require
yeah,
more agility. So their training volume is going to be a lot different than a big offensive lineman's training volume, where there might be more load for a larger athlete versus a smaller athlete needs more
yeah.
speed volume. So I think that's really the main difference when it comes to the team sport side of things is there's so much more variation between the different players and the positions versus you can optimize for an individual skill set for that individual sport
Definitely.
athlete.
I like the way how you put it, but I would like to go a little bit even more specified here. So let's go in a microcycle. So given with all of your expertise, particularly maybe in Arizona where the environment and travel can also play a significant role and can be cofactors here. How much load manipulation do you really execute on a weekly basis? How do you ensure that maybe there is no any acute or chronic, workload ratios that can be manageable and multiply with those high intensity games? They can be an additional pressure to your client.
Yeah. And yeah, being in Arizona, it's extremely
Yeah.
hot during the summer. So we have days where it's
Well,
115 degrees outside and we still try to hold training sessions. All my training sessions
yeah,
are outdoors. So it's brutal for some of these athletes. Some are acclimated to it, some aren't. But day by day, we really take it. And I usually come out with a pretty set plan on what I want our athletes to do from a volume standpoint and a repetition standpoint and exercises. But I guess it's the true art of coaching to be able to take things away, decrease volume when need be, or increase volume when your athlete's feeling good. So at the beginning of every session, I make sure I ask the athletes that I work with, how you feeling today? On a scale of 1 to
yeah,
5, how sore are you? How many hours of sleep did you get? And that really that tells me, okay, how is today going to go? Over the past several off seasons, with the athletes that we've worked with in the football side of things, we've gotten kids who are extremely banged up. We have adolescent athletes who are going through growing pains. So we have to constantly adjust what we do based on the little aches and pains or even the chronic injuries that athletes are going
I
through.
believe.
So it's definitely, I find it fun. I know there's some coaches who find it like a
Stressful, yeah.
tough, but I kind of find it fun with how yeah, with how to manipulate it. Because if we can, I'm a big proponent of minimum effective
Yeah,
dose. So if we can sprint 2 sprints and we can get you faster in that session without uh, getting you injured, without the risk of injury, then we're going to do that. And if that's what I really believe in is quality
yeah.
over
The
quantity.
intent.
So I'm more so likely to take
Yeah.
away reps than add
Yeah,
more.
sure. And I also agree with you. But for example, in a concept of deloading week or just a cycle, it can be also be maybe a myth to some coaches. You know, some of the coaches are pretty much, no, let's go hard each day, each week. But maybe when you're finding yourself in the middle of the competition season, maybe taking a complete step back can be maybe risky. And how do you tactfully navigate that necessity of just an active recovery block for your clients if the team dynamics maybe or competition calendar dictates your decision on making it maybe to do and go otherwise?
It's an interesting point because in the private sector, I don't really have to answer to too many teams and
Yeah.
organizations. So I really just kind of go based off what the athlete or even the athlete's parent
Hmm.
tells me. And then what I experience kind of during the warm up of our training session. And pretty much right away, like I'm able to see in the warm up, they're not moving correctly or something like that. But from a deload week standpoint, I would say we because I don't really work with a lot of athletes while they're in season, um, because there's different rules in this state that I'm in about high school athletes training with an outside coach during the season. However, I do think I value the importance of being year round, especially with sprint volume. So we're not taking too much time off, and we're not also diminishing volume too much to the point where we can see negative impacts. However, I do believe, on the other hand, that taking a week off or taking 2 weeks off and or dialing it back actually has an extremely good value. Just so long as you're not completely taking the foot off the gas. And I think you have a really good point when you kind of take into account the risk of injury. I would just say that it's more beneficial for an athlete to take more time off, especially specifically to the athletes that I work with. They barely have an off season. They barely take time off as it is. So I always lean into doing less than particularly, I guess, especially football coaches in our area. They're very much of that mindset. Work hard,
Yeah.
grind hard. Someone's working harder than you, but at the same time, that adaptation comes from the rest and
Yeah.
recovery. And if you program correctly and you have those peaks and valleys of volume and strain, and you sequence it properly, like you're going to see those benefits.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I'm big on a deload
Yeah.
week for
Yeah.
sure.
But let's switch, for example, because you said you train mostly in the off season with your athletes. So let's switch to the off season here for a moment. So maybe what is the one maybe non-negotiable physical adaptation you prioritize as the absolute foundation for your entire year? So is it maybe like a maximal strength, injury resilience, just as per se, or maybe just peak performance phase, or just going with here maximum velocity, or just power phase? So what do you actually prioritize here?
We prioritize
Yeah.
speed,
Yeah.
100%. Speed and
Okay.
acceleration. I wouldn't say max velocity. I would say outwardly max velocity is the main metric that we like to show that we get
Yeah.
kids faster with. Like that's how we show improvement outside. But realistically, to aid in the performance of the athletes, given our resources that we have out on the field, acceleration is really what we hang our hat on from a guiding metric of what we're trying to help our athletes with. A lot of the athletes that we work with, they don't understand how to
Yeah.
accelerate. They don't have the strength capabilities that are necessary when accelerating, or even the directional force production, horizontal force production that is necessary to accelerate. So a lot of our off-season programming is focused on horizontal force production, explosive power development using plyometrics, resisted sprinting, and overall mechanical drills to improve direction of force. So I would say acceleration, really. We definitely test multiple things: top end speed, broad jump,
Yeah.
vertical jump, other change of direction, agility drills. And then on the strength side, I mostly work in cohesion with strength coaches in my area, because there are high schools and strength programs around me that have a really good handle on actual
Yeah.
maximal strength, but they don't necessarily have the ability to translate that maximal strength
Yeah.
onto the field. And so I think that's where I kind of connect those dots with our programming.
Okay, but I do believe that even a perfectly written plan is useless without a trust from an athlete that you're dealing with. So, for example, how
Yes.
do you, from this standpoint, you as a coach communicate your why of the training, so to your athletes in the way that makes them maybe own the process rather than just follow the orders from you? So, how do you navigate this?
Well, first off, we test every
Yeah,
single session. Testing is part of our training. We don't test every month or every quarter. We test sprints every single session. I take videos of our athletes' sprints pretty much every single session, and we go over that video footage. So when an athlete is running, and I show them, hey, you see how your leg is oriented in this sprint. You see the angle that your front shin is at, and they see it and they're like, oh yeah, no wonder why this happened in the sprint. No wonder why I
yeah,
ran slower. And I allow athletes to self-assess when, after they run a sprint, I'm asking, hey, how did that feel? Did that feel better? Did that feel smoother? Did that feel faster? And then sometimes I'm met with, no, coach, I felt off, and I show them the video. Hey, this is why you felt off. So I'd say, in order for the athlete to trust what I have, first, every single session, when I plan it out
yeah,
beforehand, I'm auditing every exercise that we do. What is the purpose of this? Why are we doing this particular drill? Like, and then I have to be able to tell that athlete before the drill, hey, this is why we're doing this, and this is what it's going to help you with. There's nothing on that, and it's funny because I've been doing this for
yeah,
5 years now, and I used to think that I needed to have a drill for
yeah,
everything, or 10 different
yeah.
drills for everything. But I found myself over the past couple years throwing drills and exercises out, like more so than adding more drills into my system and
Like the more is
exercises.
less.
Because I've kind of,
Yeah,
oh, 100%. Yeah, more is definitely less. Um, because if I throw 15 drills at
yeah,
a kid, but there's no rhyme or reason for it, and it's not specific to the athlete, then there's really no point. So I've really dialed in the the several drills that I utilize, and when I watch an athlete run, I think it's just come with experience, watching athletes running and seeing how their foot hits the ground, how their shoulders throw forward, and then I see, okay, this exercise would be beneficial for them, or this weakness in their lower body needs to be worked using this
yeah,
exercise. So I would say, as I kind of get older in this, I'm still in my mid-20s. I think trust is going to be increased just by how much more experience I gain.
Of course.
However, I think the trust factor is there based on after testing several weeks and seeing the progress and seeing the improvements and seeing what they've made improvements on technically and physically, then they're saying, okay, I need to stick with this. This is working. Let's stick with this. And that's I think how I kind of build that trust is just through data.
So, but for some coaches, maybe a weight room can represent maybe a golden standard here, and in that culture. So, in your experience, what are maybe 2 or 3 non-negotiable behavioral standards outside, maybe not physical training part, so that you maybe enforce in your strength and conditioning environments that actively foster that high performance accountable culture with your kids?
Yeah, I'm big on positivity. I'm very positive, encouraging with the athletes that I work with, and I expect them to do the same. If I catch an athlete talking negatively about themselves or others in a training session, whether we're in the weight room or on the field, I make sure that doesn't really happen. Everybody has bad sessions. Everybody has, it doesn't, some people don't perform to the standard that they hold themselves to or hold others to. So I would just say positive talk, positive self-reinforcement, positive reinforcement towards others. That's what I look for to kind of build that culture. And then just also celebrating wins. I think especially high performing athletes, I mean, even as myself as a business owner and a trainer, like when me or one of the athletes I experience success, we kind of have this mindset of, oh, on to the next thing. Like, how else am I going to achieve success? We never celebrate those milestones. So when an athlete hits a milestone, they hit a certain speed goal or they reach a personal best, I make a point to celebrate that, point that out during the training session, or have them sign. We have miles per hour signs that we have athletes sign when they hit a certain speed. So it really the behavior, especially of the young athletes that I work with, I just make sure that everybody's on the same page, and everybody's motivated. And then I also make sure that it's intrinsic motivation. It's not extrinsic motivation. Like there's a lot of parents that try to motivate their athletes to come out to train with me or to achieve a lot in sports. And I have to make sure the athletes that are training with me, both as young as 7 and all the way up through high school, are with me for the right reasons. They're not there for their parents. They're there for themselves. They're there because they have passion for what they do. So I think that is more like, that's something I always reinforce day in and day out at our training sessions is intrinsic motivation within oneself to improve, and not because of a parent or a coach or me. You're not here for me, the trainer. You're here for yourself.
And I love it because actually the things that you do, it can really improve someone's character out there. And I really believe that the relationship between the coach and the athletes is very pivotal here and very crucial, but it also can be tense. So, for example, how do you manage some potential conflict here when, for example, you as a coach want to push some training structure here, but on the other side, maybe your athlete doesn't seem to operate or share the same opinion of your judgment here. So how do you navigate this?
I try to remove ego from it as much as possible. I'm aware that a lot of my athletes, they train with multiple people, and it's just, I guess, the climate in the area that I'm at right now, just the way sports is, youth sports and high school sports, a lot of athletes are getting so many different opinions from so many different sources, online and in person. So when I am faced with an opposing viewpoint or an opposing method, I have to be open-minded towards it, because ultimately, I think, I don't know, I've heard a saying, a wise man is is someone who knows that they know nothing, I guess. I understand that I have a lot to learn. So maybe there's a possibility that I could be wrong when I talk to my athletes about something, but I also have to err on the side of listening to the athletes that I work with. They're not always right. I'm
Yeah.
not always right. Um, and I have to work within what I work with what I've got. And if they hear certain methods from their strength coach at their school or their private skills coach, I have to hear them out, listen to them. And ultimately, I haven't run into a lot of issues of an athlete just flat out rejecting my methods. But if I were faced with that, I would accept
Yeah.
it, because at the end of the day, the most bought in athletes in my program are the ones who get results. So if you're
Yeah.
not bought in, you're wasting your time, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. And we all know that in that high performance culture, that all of the demands are too high, even when it comes to that mental toughness. But maybe beyond the physical gains, how do you intelligently or maybe intentionally here use that structure and intensity of the strength and conditioning session, maybe just to build that resilient and force that your athletes are facing, when they want to overcome that internal discomfort.
Yeah, and it's so important to get some of these athletes out of their comfort zone, especially female
Okay,
athletes.
why is that?
Over the past couple of years, I've been working with more female athletes because I think they get nervous a little bit more frequently than the boys, or they at least show their nervousness more so than the boys. The boys, they tend to just kind of
Yeah.
roll in and battle through some of the tougher drills, and I guess they may be a little bit more comfortable getting
Okay.
something wrong. Meanwhile, the girls don't want to embarrass themselves, and they want to do something really, really correct the
Yeah.
first time. So I I think it's really cool, the differences between the genders. And I know that's not the question, but I would say the it's so important getting these kids out of their comfort zone. So what I do is I pit them against each other, and I have them race, or I have them partner up with somebody that may be a step better than them, or a little bit more advanced than them, and I tell them to embrace the challenge, embrace competition. I gamify as much as I possibly can, on the field and in the weight room, so they can get used to
Yeah.
competition. Early on in my training journey as a coach, I had kids that were kind of scared of stepping up
Yeah.
and competing. And so I had to figure out, like, how do I get these kids to embrace competition, to embrace the test? And I think just the surrounding culture of cab training, um, has changed because of our constant testing, our constant focus on competitive drills and exercises, racing one another when it comes to sprint testing. Um, I would say that is very helpful in getting these athletes to be resilient. I'm not the big strength and conditioning coach that's going to run kids up and down the field in order for them to build their
Yeah.
mental toughness. I believe that mental toughness and resilience is built through resilient, like facing adversity, whether it's a physical adversity or a mental adversity. Maybe it's an athlete that is at the training session that is definitely more skilled or stronger or faster than you, but you have to race them. And I expect our athletes to put their best foot forward when they're in those types of situations. And there's some that do shrink. There's some athletes that do shrink under
Yeah.
that pressure, but most of them are the ones that most of them rise to the occasion and put their best foot forward and go for it. And I think with positive encouragement, you see like better performance out of athletes. I am a huge believer in not being negative or yelling or screaming to get an athlete to work harder, because I believe an athlete plays better, performs better when they're loose, they're having fun, they're passionate, and they're motivated, and positive. So that's just kind of what I feel. And there's probably some coaches who would differ with me when it comes to mental toughness creation. And there's definitely a spot for doing physically challenging
Yeah,
things, and we never stray away from physically challenging exercises and drills. However, there I think there's a happy medium between the physical demanding while maintaining the athlete's health, and also the mental side, because I've seen athletes completely mentally check out, and it has a huge toll on their physical performance. So I'm always making sure I make good
yeah.
conversation with kids at the sessions, and make sure, hey, if you had a bad day at school, let's make this training session the best part of your
Yeah,
day too.
it's good, and I love your method because it counts. Like I said at the beginning, so you're really building up the character of an athlete, but also on the individual standpoint, it's also where you actually can give them a time and space to self-reflect. And this is even good because when you add up all of that metrical part of it, because we have seen an explosion in data usage out there from all of the variables to any other subjective wellness gadget that we know out here. But what is maybe for your side the single most valuable piece of data that you rely on to adjust your periodization planning in a real time, maybe? And maybe what new metric do you think will be defining strength and conditioning world in the next 5 years?
It's a great question. I would say, from what the data that defines our program the most is obviously
Yeah,
speed. Um, we don't really track as much injury data or force data or anything like that. I would say, I last year, the year before, I was really leaning heavily into, I need to get as much technology as possible in our training. I need to get the best technology possible, the highest level, top of the
yeah,
line equipment. But ideally, at the end of the day, especially the sports that I work with, it's all about what they can put out onto the field. So, from a data standpoint, even just talking through with you right now, if they just keep showing up to training sessions, and I see, okay, how many sessions has this athlete
yeah,
gone to? That is a direct indicator of how much success they're having both in our program
for
and
sure.
on the
Yeah,
field. And the most consistent athlete who's actually focusing on their own physical development, size, speed, strength, agility, that athlete is going to have the longer lifespan in their sport. Um, I think the way youth sports and high school sports is heading right now, especially in America, it's tough, because I think there's definitely families and athletes that find strength and speed training
yeah,
important. However, I do think that the proliferation of club sports, leagues, tournaments takes away from the schedule that an athlete probably should be on when it comes to their athletic development. I think there's a lot of content creators and a lot of professionals in the field that talk about how development in European countries and in Asian countries differ from development
yeah,
in America, because America is very instant gratification regarding sports. And we want tournaments, we want championships. Even at the 9 and 10-year-old level, they're looking for
yeah,
championship rings. So I think the thing that's going to define strength and conditioning is overall attendance, overall or participation. Because if we see, especially in America, participation levels in strength and conditioning programs, both in the public school space or in the private
yeah,
sector like me, if we see that participation increase, that to me tells me that sports are going in the right direction in America and development's going in the right direction. However, if we see participation in club sports, leagues, and tournaments increase, I don't think that that's the right direction, especially if parents really have the intention of having their kids go on to a university to play sports or go on to play professionally. The kids who play professionally or on university are the ones who are physically
yeah.
developed with their speed and strength and agility. So I would say from a data standpoint, it's simple. It's not a strength piece of data. It's not a speed piece of data or power or force data. I would say it's a participation and
Yeah,
attendance data. If we have increased attendance and participation in physical development and not sport specific skill
yeah.
development, we know we're headed on the right track in the next
Yeah,
several years.
every day counts. Every day counts, and the consistency is the key here. And yeah, but you make a point, a lot of point, especially when it comes to the calendar. And I just really also hope that we are not just gonna dive into that small gap of just trying to build as much as we can and put as much as pressure into the younger generations just because we want to be a professional one day. So we are also making these misconceptions because we are leaving a lot of that positive side on the table when it comes just to the personal development, longevity, and just taking a part
Oh yeah.
of being an athlete or just being active. So it's a double-edged sword. So I definitely can feel you here. But I would like to maybe just flip the
Yeah.
switch here. And we also know that every great coach here has a story of a failed cycle or programming. So can you maybe share key lessons you learned from a periodization model that you know that maybe went wrong? And how do you maybe that misled you or maybe just force you to change your coaching philosophy here?
Yeah, and I'm always constantly learning and adjusting because we have athletes who've come in and have not gotten faster. They've not, I guess, progressed as much as I intended them to when they came through our program. And you can blame a couple different factors. I would say the most consistent factor that led to a lot of the athletes, some of the athletes, especially 2, 3
Yeah,
years ago, was their overall health in the off season. I think I did a lot of high impact plyometrics, a lot of high impact jumps that maybe worsened conditions for their knees and their joints and stuff. And we weren't really focusing on return to play protocols. We weren't really, I, I don't think I gave enough room for an athlete to take time off and
yeah,
deload. So I would say the source of, especially I would say off season 2023 being a failure for some of our athletes is
yeah,
health, overall health, nagging injuries that stayed prominent throughout the season. I probably could have referred some of the athletes to physical therapists to kind of work them through those injuries while still helping them get faster
yeah.
and stronger. Um, I would just say the number one thing is the health of the athlete. We didn't have any serious injuries come from those off season especially, but we didn't see that progression that we needed, and it was partially because that athlete came right from the in season um, and didn't allow themselves to recover some of those injuries that they sustained. They just wanted to get to work quick, and it showed that we really stayed stagnant throughout the off season.
I see. Well, thankfully, with as you can say, we are getting smarter and more experienced with the time here. But maybe for all of the strength and conditioning coaches out there, or maybe just ambitious athletes listening to us right now, if they could only adopt one principle here from the world of that elite periodization and high performance culture from you, maybe what should it be? So can you maybe like give a message to the audience here?
I would just say testing is training. Uh, when I was strength training in
Yeah,
high school, and I think even all the high schools and performance facilities near me that do similar stuff, they don't test enough and they don't track the progress of their athletes enough. Testing needs to be a consistent, I would say weekly at least, part of your periodization,
yeah,
your programming. If not, you're I am of the mindset that a program is extremely fluid. And that fluidity relies on testing data. If 1 week an athlete is running 0.2 of a second slower on a particular sprint, then we know that we have to dial it back or something, or we need to add something to the program to help them. If we see something come up when you see them running on the field and you see maybe a compensation pattern, then we know, okay, we need to add these certain exercises to the next several weeks of their training block so we can help them assess or address this specific weakness in their plan. So I would say two different things. It's testing is a necessary part of your programming, as well as you need to allow some flexibility to the program based on that testing.
Okay. So, well, actually, that brings us to the very sad part of this conversation. So practically we are almost at the end. But Jacob, this has been really an incredibly insightful dive into both the science and the soul of you when it comes to high performance sport here. So where can our listeners connect with you and follow you and your great work and that you're doing actually here in Arizona?
Yeah, so we train 30 minutes south of Phoenix, Arizona, in the suburbs of Gilbert and Chandler. So if you are in Arizona, you can check me out there. Online, basically all of my social medias are the same. CAB training, CAB training. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the major social medias, and I post every single day. And the goal for me is to educate parents, coaches, athletes. And I don't know everything, but my goal on social media is to share what I'm learning on a day-to-day basis as I work with the athletes that I see every day. I'm out on the field, and then I go and post about what I do on the field every day. So yeah, you can find me CAB training or cabspeedtraining.com. For all our programs. We have online programming as well for athletes who are looking to train with me anywhere in the world.
So I'm just going to add up. So please, people, go and follow Jacob and his awesome work here. So thank you again for sharing your expertise on Let's Get Moving podcast. And maybe a message to all of our listeners out there. Just remember, performance isn't just a destination. It's a meticulous planned journey. So until the next time, just let's get moving, people. So Jacob, thank you. Thank you again, my friend, for everything.
Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate you. Thanks for reaching out to me.
So I'm